Why is it so hard for moms to make friends? Bah! That's what we're going to talk about. Why is it hard to make friends and what we can do about it? The first thing is why. I'm in a season of life where now my kids are older. My youngest is going to be 18 in a couple days, and my oldest is 30. I know, I don't look that old, but my kids are in that older stage. Since the time that I've had my last really close network of friends, we've moved twice, and the kids have gone through different stages of homeschooling or college or life events like graduations or getting married. And as I spin into a new thing, I lose my group of friends. So think about this for a second. Let's see if I can draw and talk at the same time. If you have a sun, and around the sun, there is a planet that is orbiting the sun. It's circling the sun. If you happen to be circling at the same time as another planet, you are on the same orbit. There is another planet that is circling on a different orbit. In life, you're going to go through seasons where you are intersecting paths with other people, other moms. This season happens, let me see if I can sit down without falling. This season happens when your kids are little and they're in preschool, and the kids are all playing, and so you and the other moms are having coffee while the kids are playing, or your kids are in a club, and instead of going home, here's a novel concept. You get out of the car and you talk to the other parents. You earn the right to call other people friends. When you're in a similar life season, it is easier to make friends. So if all the people around you have kids the same age and they're doing relatively similar activities, you can cross paths in a way that makes it easier to start with a silent hand wave and then move to a, okay, I've seen you 12 times now. My name is Becky. What's your name? And then from there, you can move on to actually having conversations. And over the course of a month or 3 or 10, you can start to weave into each other's lives. As your kids leave different seasons, or as you move, or as you personally leave seasons, you leave the orbit and you enter into another lonely orbit. One of the science activities one of my sons had to do for astronomy was to use this terrible program to locate different solar bodies on the computer. And they would be looking for stars or planets or comets, different kinds of things. One of the activities was to hunt for this solar body. And he tried for like an hour. And then he asked for my help. And then I tried with him for like another hour. The program was so bad. It made it so difficult to find this thing that he needed to locate. But when you move into another neighborhood, another season, or you have a life event, births of children, graduations of children, death, divorce, you enter into a health crisis like cancer or anything like that, you can find yourself suddenly spun out of orbit, and you leave all the people that were on the orbit behind you. You see this very clearly in childhood. Your kids, if they're in preschool clubs, if they're on sports teams, they spend a lot of time with the kids that are doing the same thing, and they become best buds, right? They're hanging out, they're best friends, they're BFFs, all the stuff. And then something happens. Somebody moves, somebody gets married, life happens, and suddenly they're not in contact with their friends anymore. And now they're in a new situation and they're struggling to find friends, because you have to make purposeful steps in order to make friends. It's harder as adults because we're self-conscious. We start thinking about things like, well, I don't have any makeup on today, or I feel really fat and dumpy, or my hair looks funny, or I'm tired, I didn't sleep last night, I don't want to get out of the car, it's raining. We get all the reasons and we start to pull way back.
almost like what COVID did when we pull back from society and now we're hungry for relationships, hungry for connections, but we don't know how to do it. So it's harder because very likely you're in a season where you're looking for friendships, but you've spun out of orbit and you're not intersecting with the same people. In hindsight, you'll be able to look back through the orbits of your life. And if you're blessed, you'll be able to identify at least one friend that you've picked up along the way in the different orbits. If I go back through my life, I remember Shelly and Rachel. We were best friends when we were like 6 and 7. And I jumped forward into another season of life. And one of my best friends was a young boy named Brian. He was great. He was super fun. Go to another stage and I bumped into my Tracy, my Joan, my Ann, my Karen, and those gals that were my middle school friends. Also, then we went through high school together, and I've carried these friendships throughout the rest of my life. But I don't have crowds of people behind me. I have one or two friends from the different seasons of life that have remained lifelong friends, even though when I was in high school, I had a bunch of friends. And I hung out with I'm still always kind of a one or two type gal. So I'm the kind of person that doesn't do small talk really well. So I deep dive with friends, and I wanted friends that wanted to deep dive with me. And so the friendships that I made were lifelong type friends. But then we move, right? I got married I think I was 20, almost 21. I was young, got married, and I moved to a new state all by myself because my husband was in the Navy and he went out to sea and I was all alone. So who did I make friends with? Well, the gals that I worked with, right? I worked at a toy store, and one of the gals turned out to be a really good friend of mine, and we stayed connected while I worked at the toy store. And then I got pregnant, and then we moved, and I haven't spoken to her since. So when you think back through your life and you think about the friendships that you have made, I'm guessing that you can identify the reason that you made that particular friend or that particular group of friends. It was a job. It was the dorm that you were living in. It was the church that you were attending. There was a season of life right before I started to be a homeschool mom. So I was a mom, but we weren't homeschooling yet. There was this group of women at my church that I thought were the bee's knees. I wanted to be friends with them so badly. And yet we weren't connected in any way. There was no intersections in our orbit except that we went to the same church. And I prayed, and eventually, I can't even tell you what life event happened, but suddenly I was in the cool girl club. And then we went through another season of amazing friendship building through the season of homeschooling. So it's hard to make friends as a mom, as a woman, as a wife, as a stay-at-home mom, as a homeschool mom. But it's hard for everybody. It's not hard for everybody. It's hard for most of us. And I'll just say that. So what can you do about it? Right now, I'm a walker. I love to walk. I love to exercise. I love to be outside. But more than anything right now, I have my eyes open and I collect people. I collect their names. Today, I met Karen and Keith and their dog Cat. I met Eben, and I met two gals, Tanya and Erica, and one of them had a dog. Now, you're thinking, well, I don't remember people's names, and I'm not going to talk to strangers. Rewind the tape, if you're old enough to know what that means. Rewind 10 years, 15 years. I was terrified to talk to people in public. And I realized I could not teach my children how to make friends if I didn't make friends. I couldn't teach them to talk to people in public if I couldn't talk to people in public. So I started practicing, and this is what I'm going to encourage you to do. Go to the same place often. Do you know where I started? The grocery store. You go to the same places often, whether it's the pediatrician's office or the grocery store. I now go on a walk at the same time-ish every day. While you are out, look for somebody that you can have a very brief interaction with. The example from today, well, I have two. No, I have three. So the three examples from today. First, Tanya, Erica, and their little dog. We're walking in opposite directions. I have seen these ladies now half a dozen times, 10 times, and I decided today was the day that I was actually going to have an interaction with them. So I saw them walking and they got close enough and I said, you can almost set your clock. I can almost set my clock by when I see you. And they started to laugh. And then we stopped and we had a 5 to 10 minute conversation about why I was there and all. It was wonderful. They were wonderful ladies. I grabbed their names in my mind, burned them into my memory, and I will make a point the next time I see them to call them by name. The next interaction was this older couple walking their dog, Karen and Keith. Keith is one of those guys that he looks at you. And so he got eye contact with me and he said, is this your daily walk? And I said, for now. And we went on to talk about why I was there on the island because my son was rowing, and I showed him a picture of my son. And then I went on again, walking in the opposite loops. I catch up with him later because we walked in a loop and we crossed, and they said to me, we just met your son. And I said, you did? Is he at the car? Because I'm running a little behind. And they said, he is. And the wife said, your son is a charmer. I said, I use the word smoozer because interaction, when you meet someone, if there's a friendly connection, forget all the small talk and just treat them as if you're just good friends. You already know them. Strangers are people that are friends that you just don't know their names yet. Another fun one was when I met the young kid, Eben, that connected to my husband. I was recording the workshop, the 3 stages of homeschooling out on the water. I was sitting out there recording the workshops. And when I was done, I walked by and he was digging holes. And so as I walk up, I'm like, what could I say? Oh, I said, so you just woke up this morning and you thought, I think today's a great day to dig a hole in the park. And then he laughed, and then we instantly started talking. He's doing his Eagle project, and it turned into this conversation. So it's hard to make friends, but what can you do about it? I'm going to tell you, number one, to breathe and to be friendly, to say hi, and to practice the art of conversation. Oh, it's hard, and it's worth studying. It's worth watching YouTube videos on. How do you open conversations? How do you make friends? How do you carry a conversation? My favorite one, but I watch it twice a year, minimally. She does swear once in it, so I love her. It's a TED Talk on the art of conversation or the top 10 tips of conversation. I'll link to it below. But I've watched this with my kids every year. And the reality is that if you're interested in people and you truly care, people are drawn to you. You don't have to agree. You don't have to have the same religious beliefs. You don't have to have the same political background. You don't have to have read the same book. You don't have to have kids in the same grade. They don't have to be the same sex. You don't have to be married or unmarried. You can just be interested in people. And people are drawn to that. So how do you make friends as a homeschool mom? I'll leave you with this last thing. Go on walks almost every single day. Start tomorrow, if not today. Go on a short walk and walk your neighborhood or walk where people are, and then do it again the next day and do it again the next day. Walkers kind of rise out of the houses. They're just there and they're friendly most of the time. So get into a normal, regular routine of getting outside. Just getting outside is a healthy habit, which will increase your happiness anyway. So rain or shine, get outside and walk. And then make it a point after you've done this for about a week or two to watch for people and to make a connection with at least one person a week. My personal prayer goal is to meet one person every time I go for a walk and to memorize their name so that if I see them again, I can say hi. I can call them by name. And I will link to another video that my youngest son and I watched and studied together about how to remember people's names, because it's important that when you meet people, you actually try to remember their names. So stop saying, I'm terrible with names, but I'm great with faces. Don't say it again. You're working on memorizing names and you're collecting names. And there's tricks to it that you can actually remember people's names and faces. So I get it. Making friends as a mom is hard, especially if you stay at home and you don't get out except to go buy milk at the grocery store or to drop your kids off at a sporting event. But you need to put yourself out there consistently, and then you need to be friendly, and then you need to remember people's names, work on it, even if you have to write it down. One of the days that I walked recently, I met this wonderful trio of women, and usually I meet one, and I told them, I said, okay, my goal is always to collect one new name when I walk, but you three are challenging me. Carol, Cindy, and Karen. And I knew when I walked away that I was going to have a hard time because the conversation went so fast. So I stopped and I pulled out my phone and I drew a little picture and I named everybody on there so that I could look at it and have a picture to remember later. Because it's important that you see people. It's important that you see people. And the key to getting friends, making friends, is to be a friend, to engage with other people, to remember their name, to be present, and to not be in a rush. The beautiful thing about walking is that it's slower, and making true friends is a slow process. And I also firmly believe that you don't become lifelong friends until you endure something together. Somebody has some kind of a hardship that they need to go through, and then you're able to show up by bringing a meal or doing a load of laundry. You can make friends. You just have to give yourself some grace. You have to be friendly. You want to remember people's names and you want to show up. That's the key. You have to show up. Get out of the car, say hi, introduce yourself, and be at the same orbit of people in whatever season of life that you're in. There's some repeatable thing that you have going right now in your life that you can start to meet people, but it's a slow process. So be patient with yourself.